Winston Churchill, the man who wouldn't surrender. He was not made for peace. His voice was too loud, his words too sharp, his presence too heavy for stillness. Winston Leonard Spencer Churchill was a man built for storms, storms of bullets, of politics, of doubt, of fire. Born into privilege in 1874 at the Grand Blenheim Palace, he carried the weight of legacy before he could speak in full sentences. He was the descendant of dukes, the child of wealth. But inside, Winston was never a man at ease. He struggled in school, his mind wandered, his body was small, his speech flawed, his grades unimpressive. But there was something that burned inside the boy, a stubborn flame that no humiliation could put out. His father, Lord Randolph Churchill, was a rising political star, but cold and often absent. His mother, Jenny Jerome, was an American socialite who lit up every room except her son's. Winston's childhood was one of loneliness, masked by marble. He sought attention through rebellion, found freedom in books, and learned that pain and rejection could be outlasted. This pain, this hunger to matter, became his armor. Where others grew by approval, Churchill grew by friction. The army gave him purpose, not because of duty or patriotism, but because it was real. He saw combat in India. He witnessed slaughter in the Sudan. He was captured in South Africa and made a daring escape from a Boer prison camp, then sold the story to the press. That was the trick. Churchill didn't just fight history, he wrote it. Even then, he knew the pen could go further than the rifle. His name appeared in print, and suddenly he was not just a soldier, but a sensation. War taught him more than killing, it taught him voice. By the age of 25, he entered Parliament, young, brash, and unafraid. He talked too much, said what others only thought, and while his speeches were seen as theatrical, even pompous, the words stuck. His politics were restless. He switched parties. From conservative to liberal, then back to conservative. People called him a traitor, a weather vane, an opportunist. But Churchill wasn't chasing position. He was chasing the moment where he was right. And when he was right, he stood alone, without blinking. It was in the 1930s that his most powerful trait emerged: vision. As Hitler rose in Germany, Churchill saw the danger early. While most of Britain appeased the dictator, Churchill shouted into silence. He called for rearmament. He warned of war. He painted the picture of what was coming, and they ignored him. They called him old-fashioned, a warmonger, a has-been. The price of being early is often ridicule, and Churchill paid in full. Then, in 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, and suddenly, Churchill wasn't the madman anymore. He was the only one who had seen the truth. War broke through the illusions, and Churchill was brought back into the government. By May 1940, with France collapsing, British cities under attack, and Parliament in chaos, Winston Churchill became Prime Minister. It was not a peaceful transition. It was a call to the gallows. Britain stood alone. The United States was still out. The Soviet Union was not yet touched. Europe belonged to Hitler, and England was a burning island in the storm. The people needed hope. Churchill didn't give them that. He gave them truth. He stood before the House of Commons and told them, "I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat." He didn't sweeten the edges. He made the war feel close, and that's why people followed him. Because he didn't lie to them. His strength was not comfort. It was clarity. While German bombs fell on London, Churchill walked the streets. He visited bomb shelters. He stood beside the broken, and every night his voice crackled across the radios, telling the nation to hold the line. His speeches weren't just political theater, they were weapons. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight in the fields, we shall never surrender. These were not metaphors. This was his promise. He held Britain together with language and presence. He smoked his cigar, wore his bowler hat, and dared Hitler to break him. And when the Nazis turned their guns toward Russia and Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, Churchill's isolation ended. America entered the war. Stalin joined the fire, and Churchill became the bridge between two continents, an old lion snarling alongside two giants. He met with Roosevelt and Stalin. He negotiated, argued, warned. He wasn't charming, but he was relentless. He understood war as a balance of steel and spirit. And when the Allies landed in Normandy on D-Day, he saw the light break through the fog. By 1945, victory was close. Germany fell. Hitler ended himself in a bunker. And Churchill walked among cheering crowds as the man who stood when no one else would. But then, in a twist no playwright could write, he was voted out. The man who led Britain through its darkest hour was rejected at the dawn of peace. Churchill didn't protest. He didn't complain. He understood history better than most, and so he returned to the shadows and wrote. Words had made him, and now they preserved him. His war memoirs became legend. His sentences carried battles within them. He was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature, not because he was a writer, but because he had lived it all and told it better than anyone. He came back once more as Prime Minister in the 1950s. Older, slower, but still sharp. He gave one last warning: beware the Iron Curtain. He saw the Cold War before anyone named it, and again, people didn't listen. But Churchill didn't need applause anymore. He had already done the one thing most never do. He had changed the direction of the world. On January 24, 1965, Winston Churchill died. The nation wept. The world stood still. He was given a funeral with the weight of kings, though he'd been none. He was never easy, never soft. He was flawed, stubborn, and often offensive. But when the fire came, he stood. Not because he was fearless, but because he believed that surrender was worse than death. And now, decades later, we ask the question, who was Winston Churchill? Was he a hero carved in iron, or a relic of empire refusing to fade? Was he Britain's backbone, or just its voice when it needed one? Was he a savior, or simply the only man willing to take the heat? Tell us in the comments, was Churchill a legend, or just the last lion left when everyone else ran? One thing is certain, he never surrendered.